Okay, yay! Week 3, a new age of freedom, and I'm really glad you guys are here. So just a few things. First of all, thank you for all of you that have donated or are donating. I really appreciate that. And I want you to know that I post these videos usually that day, if not the next day, so you can access them at any time after. And my ask is that you subscribe, if you will, if you desire, to know when more come up. And the other thing is that I send notes and home play after the calls, usually with little notes from the call. And if you are not on, if I don't have your email, please make sure you send me your email because that way you can get them. And also I do have ideas for resources usually during the week, and I make an additional video. So if you want access to that and you're not on Facebook, because I'll post it there, then make sure you give me your email as well. And as far as Facebook is concerned, you guys that are on Facebook, every week I have to create a new event. So what I'm going to create the statement to be the event to be called, it will be week 4, week 5, and that way you know what it's pertaining to. If you didn't get the invite and you want to be on that, just reach out to me, because again, I post things, but it will be gone after that week. And please send me any ideas, any things that are showing up for you, topics that you want me to discuss for certain, whether you're watching now live or you're watching in the future. Just email me at valerie@vdacoaching.com or find me on Facebook or something like that. And I am going to change the call time, you guys. A lot of people are saying that this time is too early on Pacific and Mountain time, so I'm gonna just up it an hour, and I really hope that doesn't mess people up, but it's just been kind of the issue. So hopefully we'll see. We'll give it a shot and we'll see. Especially now that the weather is getting a little nicer in certain places. So I think that's it for the housekeeping, and we will get started. And I want to also open it up to more coaching too, if you guys want that. So I've already done a main stage of the area, but I'm just going to stage. So maybe as I'm bringing these things in, these aspects, these elements in, maybe just start to drop into your own self, whatever that looks like for you. So just saging the area, saging this time, this moment together, saging even and clearing energetically your own space wherever you are. I'll also be lighting a candle, and this candle is a representation of our light. May we send the light out to everyone on this planet. May we hold the light and be the light. So I'll keep this going through the entire call, and maybe just take an inhale, bringing this light into your body. And if you're driving, maybe don't close your eyes, but if you want to, close your eyes. Just breathe in this light, take in this light, recognizing this light is part of you, a part of everyone in the seen and unseen world. And feel yourself getting spacious. Feel yourself almost as if you're filling your bones with this light. You're filling your organs with this light. And this light represents whatever you want it to be, but it's the highest frequency. And imagine like every single cell of your body is being filled with this light. And in this moment, just let's all just send a prayer, an intention, an offering, whatever you want to call it, out to the world. To all of those right now that are out there working for us, the ones that are working at the restaurants, the grocery stores, the doctors, the nurses. Just send them some of this light. Send them some of your own light, your love, your prayers. This is the frequency. This is, in my opinion, what supports the healing of this planet. Take a very big inhale and let it go, exhale. So I also tap in to see if there's a crystal that is being called for these calls. And today the crystal is lapis lazuli. And I pulled up and then I want to just read this to you guys. If you're into crystals, right? So think about it like, again, they hold the energies of, they hold a certain energy, each crystal does. So lapis lazuli, and this is it right here, it encourages self-awareness, it allows self-expression, and reveals inner truth, providing qualities of honesty, compassion, and morality to the personality. It stimulates objectivity, clarity, and encourages creativity. It assists to confront and speak one's truth and inspire confidence. So if that resonates with you and you want to use this for the week in your meditations or place on certain areas of your body, this is very much related to, yeah, I'll write down I'll write it in the chat box. It very much resonates with the 5th chakra, where we to speak our truth and use our voice. So if you're noticing, by the way, that this area is kind of tight on you, the throat area, that's actually really common for right now. I'm not talking about the virus, by the way. I'm talking about the energetics, and we can get in that for sure. But a lot of what today I'm going to be talking about has to do somewhat with that. So just to recap last week, and if anybody wants to bring anything up, we spoke a lot about our personal thinking and universal mind coming through. So we have our personal thinking, the thoughts we already know, our limiting beliefs, the things we come to the table with that we only know what we know, right? And I'm not certain if I told this story, but I'm just going to say it really quickly. Is like one quick thing about how this might manifest is I was speaking to a client, and he is alone right now in this time. And his thinking is, it's really, really hard to be alone right now. It's really hard. And what's fascinating is that he had an experience of feeling really lonely a lot, which is very actually common for him. It's a common emotion. And what's fascinating is I was like, that's really interesting, because I'm totally alone out here in Mexico, and I don't feel alone. I have moments of feeling lonely, but there's fewer and further between. If anything, I have just a different feeling around it. Loneliness is not something I experience a lot often. So the only difference between the two of us is our thinking. So I really just want to point that out. So we talked about that last week. Any questions on that, around that? Any sticky points, insights? Okay. The other thing that I want to just also quickly say that I mentioned, I believe last week, was, we've really been asked, now it's been some significant time and where we've been more inward, and there's a lot of building up of annoyance and frustration and all these different things. And two things is, one thing is becoming aware of what we're choosing to fill our space with and our time with. What's awesome is a lot of people we have different things like Zoom. Oh my gosh, right? Like, amazing that we have this right now. And we have, phone calls, and people are having game nights with their family via Zoom, and people are having all these different calls, and it's so fun and beautiful to hear about. And what I notice is that there's an opportunity in each of those connections to connect intentionally. Are we filling our time intentionally? Am I filling with something just because I need to do something right now? I feel lonely and I'm just gonna call anyone. I'm just gonna call and do this. So just starting to really be conscious of the choices we're making and the way in which we're filling our time is going to be really useful to set the tonality of our own personal experience. And the way in which we're experiencing anything is through our emotions in that moment. So that's great. Yay. Okay. I'm going to read some things on the chat box, you guys, when they come through, if you want, just because I think it's fun to share, to celebrate each other's wins and different questions, because it might not be your own question. But Renee said she's starting to feel more hope, and that's beautiful, and it's getting better. And she's been dancing a lot, and her dancing is improving. So around that, and I also want to say that another thing with going back to our thinking is, you know, we might come in, like, I remember I had this, I had thinking, like, I'm horrible at home practices. I don't practice yoga at home. I'm horrible at doing workouts at home. And that thinking really just, it became my identity. It was like this thing that I was unwilling to do. I was unwilling to stretch. And what's fascinating is that when this started to occur, I noticed that thinking really coming in and resisting, you know. But I was like, oh, wait, hold on a second. That can be true. That can totally be my truth. Yet I don't want it to be anymore, because I am home and I'm not connecting, and I do want to practice. And I know I'm not going to do it on my own right now at this juncture. So I'm going to practice classes, and maybe that will inspire me to do my own. So just the invitation to also, to not only watch maybe certain thinking we have about patterns that we're in, and I'm going to get into that more in a moment, but really, you know, really maybe even giving yourself an opportunity to totally try something new, totally try something different. So just that awareness of what you're filling your time with, and then any kind of thinking that you have that might be pushing you in a direction actually keeps you further away from what you really want, instead of moving toward either a new or something you really desire. So that's kind of a recap, and then tapping into some other little thing. But any thoughts or questions around that? Okay. So I want to talk about tonight. We spoke about it a little bit last week, and we're going to dive deeper into it, because this is something that I'm seeing again and again in coaching sessions, in my own self, and just in whenever you know, I'm talking to friends or anything. And it's the understanding of the ego and how different aspects of our ego show up. So remember that the ego gets a bad rap, but as long as we're living in this world, at least the world in which we know up until this point, the ego is necessary, right? It keeps us safe from the from getting really, really hurt, from basically survival. It keeps us alive. Yet it's become excessive. And so what happens is that I believe that whenever we are, and when I say excessive, what I mean is that it's freaking out about, oh my God, wait, hold on a second, I might get rejected. Oh my God, that person looked at me weird. They might not like me, and now I have to, you know, I have to change myself. I have to do something. Oh my God, you know, like there's, what if I run out of toilet paper? Right? It's like we start to worry about these things, and the ego starts to become excessive, and then our nervous system's on overload. So what I believe is that we're invited to up level our lives for a lot of different reasons. And I will go into those different reasons, but for now, I want to talk about what happens when we are invited to up level, and what occurs in our ego. What occurs in those moments is the ego, that part of ourselves that's terrified of change, terrified of uncertainty. It starts to resist. And it usually resists in certain patterns that we're very, very already deeply ingrained in. Maybe that's blaming. Maybe it's apathy. Maybe it's being the victim. Maybe it's busying ourselves. Maybe it's an addiction of some sort, right? So these are the ways in which we resist that growth. And it's clever the way these things kind of come in. And unless we are choosing to be awake enough, meaning really, really just open our eyes, our ears, our senses to these parts of ourselves, we will miss it. We most likely have been missing it. And the reason is because it's so familiar. It's like a mole you've had on your arm your whole life. You don't think about it. It's just there. You don't think about it. It's not a problem. It's just there, you know? And that is the way. But this space, this time gives us the opportunity to see and really feel and have greater understanding of these ways in which these repetitive patterns might be playing up, to get curious of, does that serve me? Does this really serve me? Not only in the who I am now, but even the who I'm becoming. So I'm going to give you a story, and a story is an example. The reason why I give stories, just to remind you, is because we're so enmeshed in our own stuff, it's hard to see the forest between the trees. So these stories, think about it like you're taking yourself out of your life so you can look down into your life using the story as a metaphor. So the invitation is, when you hear these stories, to then see how it might be applicable. Not the exact story, but a story that resonates. And here's the thing with these calls, you guys, is that this is not I'm not teaching you anything. This is a remembering. And we hear things, and through sharing and through questions and through curiosity, we start to have our own insight, and certain aspects and understanding land in us in our way. So I was speaking with a client, and she's awesome. She's like totally a powerhouse. She gets shit done. She creates. She's running a business right now with 3 employees. She's doing awesome. And she's usually a runner, and usually, out there, running all the time and working out and whatever. And we got on the call, and she said, I don't know what's wrong with me. She said, I'm not motivated. I'm not working out. I'm not getting up to run. And I don't know what's wrong. I keep trying to, and she's like, that's awful. And she's like, and then I'm noticing, she's like, I love my husband, and we're doing great, and we're both working from home. She said, but man, this week, I just am so frustrated with him. I just want him to get the hell away from me. And she's like, and I feel so bad. And I just feel like so cranky, and I feel so mean, and I don't feel like I'm getting anything done. And so there's a few things that I experienced when I was listening with her. Is, first of all, what was showing up in her is a pattern. The pattern of self-judgment. That's an ego survival aspect for her. If she beats the shit out of herself enough, then she'll be free from X. If she does enough, then she will be free from and safe from X. If she makes sure she lives in this certain identity, she will be okay. Well, what's starting to happen is that identity, that way in which she sees herself and the way in which she's been operating up until this point, it ain't working right now, right? And what she fills it with is automatically judgment, shame. And then interestingly, she's more catabolic. She feels heavier. Well, she feels heavier. She's most likely not going to exercise, not feeling up to it. She feels more cranky. Yeah, because the catabolic energy is stacking and stacking. And she starts to feel cranky at her husband and pissed at her husband, again, because it's the mirror aspect of there's so much judgment on her own self that it's almost like a relief to put it on someone else for a while. Yet in turn, we know we're just kind of going to keep pouring that on our own selves. So in the pattern, what it's doing is that if we stay in that pattern long enough, not only do we not experience change, whatever it, or if we do, it's going to be a much longer, arduous journey. And that is the difference between experiencing the whole idea of pain is inevitable, suffering is optional. Pain, challenge, change, all those things, that's inevitable, part of the human experience. The suffering is when we fall asleep to the magnificence of that. Yes, we're having a human experience, but I'm not this experience, meaning like this is not me, and that whole judgment or whatever that whole resistance pattern is within our own selves. And so there's a few things that come up as I'm listening to her, right? Because I'm listening to her energy. And I have insight, and that's what I love. Is like, I love these conversations because it's like I gain insight throughout it. We show up with what we know, and then we open up, and through dialogue and through witnessing and through these conversations, we start to become aware. And so as I'm listening to her, I just am thinking back about when we first started coaching together. And I'm going to use my language, but part of the reason why she wanted to start coaching with me was to learn to slow down and learn to not work so hard, not push so hard, and learn to drop more in her feminine. And what's interesting is that this pattern that was creeping in was precisely the opposite. It wasn't inviting spaciousness. It wasn't creating that softness and that kindness and compassion. It was just the old pattern coming in. Additionally, in these moments, you guys, I believe that if we are saying, wow, okay, like I want to create this in my life, or I want to do this, well, it inevitably means something's got to go in order to create the new. So another reason why she came with me to work with me in the beginning is she's building her business to the next level. Well, sure as shit, her stuff's going to come up about this. 100%. The doubt, another way we resist, that's going to come up. And then what happens is the more we get to that moment of like a big breakthrough, that's often when life really starts to come in. Like, for example, let's say that, it's like, yeah, I want to do this thing. And you tell a family member and the doubt committee takes over and they're like, I don't think that's a good idea. Really? Are you going to do that? This is not the time to start a business. Are you kidding me? And then we go, oh, yeah, you're probably right. And so we think of that as sometimes we affirm that because it's so familiar. And we're patterned and we're wired to move toward what's familiar and away from what's unfamiliar, even if familiar isn't good for us. Familiarity, doubt, shame, not lovable, unworthy, scarcity, worry. So before we go on, I just want to check in with you guys. Does anybody have any questions, comments, insights? And I see a question here from Alicia. I'll say that in a moment.
I'll speak if
Okay.
No one's speaking. What was a profound realization or remembrance in your language? Our language is so experiencing moments where I was thinking about in my present state and seeing both the beautiful qualities in people I surround myself with, and then seeing some things that are like not in alignment with myself, and the word of like judging comes up, and so just the presence to when because sometimes I look at people around me and I just, it's just beauty and awe. I'm like, wow, these people are, oh my goodness, so fantastic. And it's because I'm not judging myself in that moment, and because I'm happy and I'm fulfilled. And so everything that I see around myself is light and love and laughter. And so just recognizing that when, the people that are in my life, and you talk about like protecting energy. So there's that going on too, but can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Just really checking in with myself and analyzing which parts of me I'm currently judging or not wanting to look at, in order to reflect and let someone else carry the load of my judgment for a little bit. It made me cackle a little bit over here. So yes, I resonate.
Awesome. Thank you, Steve. That's beautiful. So there was an awareness that he was projecting out judgment to others, and realized that in that moment there was judgment toward himself. It was kind of a little hard to hear you, so I'm not sure if anybody else had an issue, but I believe that I heard everything you said. And that's it. And that's that whole thing again. In the spaciousness, there's invitation for something new, and the something new is not always going to feel uncomfortable. It doesn't always feel good to put a mirror on ourselves, you guys. It really doesn't. Yet if we look through it through a different lens, if we look through it through a lens of, wow, I'm noticing I'm not motivated, and holy cow, I'm beating myself up for not being motivated, but maybe I'm actually being invited to operate in a new manner right now, to create some space in my body, space in my life for something new. Wow, instead of looking at it through, oh my God, I'm not working out right now. What a piece of shit. I can't believe it. Oh my God, I'm judging myself. See, I'm doing it again. And I can't believe I'm doing it again. And I'm just there and I'm not doing it. And we just start pouring and pouring more on. And so really giving our own selves, I was thinking about this too recently. We're constantly evolving, constantly. And it's really amazing to me that oftentimes I hear, and I think I mentioned this in that first free call that I gave you guys, but like, I don't know whoever was on it, but like, it's amazing. Like, I think about, I have this one client who has a teenage son, and she still treats him like he's a young boy, like 7 years old. And he is, he's 16 now, and he wants to be seen in different eyes. And so it means there's an invitation for now his mother and him to establish a new way of being in their relationship. They're not the same anymore. Yet what we tend to do is treat others with the expectation that that's what they were in the beginning, therefore that's who they should be now. And so when they start to adapt a new way of being, oftentimes they're made wrong for it. Or we do that to ourselves. I used to be this person that did this. I used to be, or I can't believe I've always been this person that does X. I personally used to be a workaholic, big time. And it cost me massively. And when I started to really allow flow in, it took time, but it took me to really give myself permission to show up anew, to stop putting myself in a box and being like, no, this is Valerie, and this is how Valerie, and this was my ego. No, honey, this is how you survive in life. If you're not that, that's not okay. And so excessive that it was costing me and keeping me further away from these other things that I wanted in my life. And so really giving ourselves permission to show up anew in each moment, especially now. I mean, it's happening really fast even. And also giving the people that are in our lives this opportunity to show up anew. It's huge. It's so powerful and so beautiful. So, Alicia asked a question. She said she can really feel the story of when I was speaking about my client. And she said, what are ways we can practice more patient with the ones we live with during this time? I mean, what comes to mind with that for me, Alicia, and again, there's no right answer. But what does come to mind are a few different things. One is giving ourselves permission to have space, and although that might be tight quarters, but really giving ourselves permission to share space with somebody, cohabitate with someone, and be in our own bubble. And that sometimes can be challenging, but even creating boundaries and saying like, hey, I'm going to be over here, and right now I need to like, I'm like, you kind of are going to disappear from the room, but like mama needs space, or taking time to be off on your own in another room. And then the other thing that comes to mind too is, again, I think about patterns, right? I think about these sticky points, that thing that Steve spoke about, the mirror, right? The sticky points that we're noticing we're getting triggered by the other person. How might that be an invitation to look at our own selves? To look at she is in the relationship she's in. Did you guys hear that, or did I just freeze? You didn't hear it? Okay. So I have this client. I have this client who she identifies herself as someone that is, she lives to make people happy. And she feels like that's her duty. And what she does is she's constantly like wanting to fix and wanting to help everyone she's around. And this has been an ingrained pattern in her whole life. Survival, ego thing. She's only lovable when, I'm just breaking it down simply, but I'm only lovable when I'm the one that's always giving, I'm the one that's always fixing, I'm the one that's always helping, because everyone's happy, and then I'm okay. Okay? So what's happening though is that in her intimate relationship is she keeps showing up like her boyfriend is not, he's having a hard time, he's in a low place, he's having a really hard time through this. And she keeps trying to help him and fix it for him and take away the pain. But the thing is that her coming in, and I call it the hero, the hero archetype, not only does it go to that place of codependency in the sense of that, you're broken and it needs to be fixed, and I'm the one that's going to save you. In addition to that, it's not, we look at it like oftentimes like it is supporting someone, but we're actually giving someone a fish sandwich and keep teaching them to fish. Because in that moment, there's an invitation for him to step into his strength, to cultivate something inside of him, to make changes, to really look at his own stuff. And her place of seeing the person she loves that's uncomfortable in front of her tendency is to go, uncomfortable, I gotta fix it, I gotta make it better, and I can't, and there's the opportunity. So what she's been practicing in this space, especially having more time together, she's been practicing when he's having his low states to hold this bucket for him, be there for him, yet give him space to find his own wisdom, to discover what he needs in those moments. And what's amazing, when we did a check-in, because she's been practicing this, they're getting closer. He's starting to step up more in the relationship, which was a issue for them, because she wasn't also always feeling that. She was trusting him, trusting life, and then learning to sit in the discomfort of those catabolic feelings of the person in front of her not being happy, and recognizing, oh, it's not my it's not my job to manage someone's emotions. So it literally took stripping away this identity of I'm lived to make people happy to something totally different. And I forget what she said, but it was along the lines of, I'm not here to manage other people's emotions. I'm here to experience and feel joy in my own self. Right? So that whole experience for her changed the trajectory of her living and her relationship with her partner. So to answer your question again, Alicia, just to recap, is really looking at maybe the aspects of which that, in those moments, what might be yours. And here's the other thing. Maybe it's not a problem that sometimes you get frustrated, pissed off, impatient. Like, I think we add a lot of meaning, like, oh God, in this moment, I want to rip their heads off. So what? You're just having thinking about it. And if we just step away a little bit and we don't actually charge that thinking so much and give it so much meaning, that's when we might find, and we see what's in our own selves. Wow, I'm really impatient with myself right now. That's fascinating. Oh, I realize I have a lot of judgment toward myself and I'm just putting it on him right now. Yeah, and Nicole wrote, like, communicating with that person about taking space while you're cohabitating. Absolutely. That's profound, And sometimes that even gives and opens up the conversation, the dialogue for a discomfort, because the other person might get triggered and they might take it personally and they might make it about them. And there you go, voila, another opportunity. We get to see the ways in which we take the way in which someone's being personally. That's another great one to look at. Somebody in front of us is starting to have a really hard time, a really hard day, and we start to take it on and we take it personally, like, oh, it's me, or maybe I'm doing something, or maybe this, and we start to take it on. Well, that's another resistant pattern from us evolving or growing and becoming the new. And none of these things are problems, you guys. We don't have problems when we start to identify them as problems. Instead, what if we look at them as, wow, these are human experiences, these are human tendencies, and this is something that I have up until this point created a pattern around, but I recognize this is not who I am. And that alone, of that shift of perspective, in the sense of that this is not me, this is just a pattern or a thinking pattern or a habitual pattern, all of a sudden there's that little bit of space for something potentially new to come in. Anybody have ideas, shares, insights, questions?
I don't know if I have an insight, but I'm just like reflecting this piece of how strong identity is and how it has gotten us this far. And we're in this space of it's being deconstructed. Like, what does it mean to be working from home? I work from home now, or I'm a mom and a teacher and the cleaner and the cook and everything, whatever. Like, it is like massive deconstruction. So it makes sense that the contrast is so big, and that the pain and the suffering, I guess the suffering more so, is paramount right now. So stripping away the identity, and it's such a massive opportunity for sure. So the veil is real thin, but we are who we are. I am a coach. I am a skier. I am, right? Like, that's how we navigate this world. And really, what does it be like to be nothing? That would be like, that's the question that's coming up for me. Like, if I didn't have a label, what might show up? So.
I love that. What a great question to contemplate. Right there, that one question for us to, I don't know, I'm going to take it and contemplate that a little bit deeper, because that is great. Strip it all away.
Mm.
right? And what we will each discover will be something that's totally personal.
Right. And you can always go back to the old way.
Mhm.
You can always go home.
Mhm.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank
Beautiful.
you.
I love that. You know, and it's happening. The other thing that what Christine just said, it's happening really fast. Like it's happening fast. Yet, I mean, I'm going to give you a belief that truly helps me and it's a chosen belief. But I believe that we're never given anything more than we can handle. And actually, I think we're given precisely what we can handle. And that takes me out of the victim, which, by the way, we all have the archetype of the victim to some extent. And it just puts me in a seat of empowerment. And that's a game changer, because again, it opens me up to something new. And the reason why it opens me up to something new is because being at the effect of something, I'm in a vibrational frequency of victim, of catabolic, of ugh, of judgment, of shame. Well, that's heavy. Well, like attracts like energy. That's the law of this universe that we live in currently. Well, guess what's going to start to happen? More of that. And then when we do take that moment, like, oh, okay, hold on a second. What if I'm given not only what I can handle, but precisely what I can handle? And I don't know how. I'm not in charge of the how, so I'm going to let that one go. I'm not going to try to figure this shit out. I'm just going to start to pay attention to all the little nuggets that the universe is pouring out to me in every single moment. And now I start to feel maybe an energy of hope, of inspiration, of excitement, of curiosity, very different frequency. Well, then in that space, right, remember my aperture is greater. I have more ability to learn, and also like attracts like energy, more of that frequency will come back to me. It's inevitable. And again, we can conceptualize the shit out of this, you guys. But first it's intellect, and then the more we really practice it and allow it into our lives, and we give it time to land and we let it assimilate, then it becomes visceral, and then we're experiencing it. Yet it is rarely flipping a switch. Rarely. It is usually practicing, catching ourselves, tripping, falling, and even looking at the tripping and falling as maybe that was perfect too. Maybe it was another opportunity to clean up this part of me that I really, really know I want to and I'm committed to. I'm going to tell you a story, but first I want to just check in on these really quickly. I feel like communication with my spouse has become so much harder because there aren't the same escapes there used to be. I have no reason to leave the house. My husband can go to work. It forces us to confront challenges that likely always have been there, but there's always been distractions. Yeah, I love that. Absolutely. Absolutely. We are seeing the cobwebs underneath the couch right now because we're doing yoga on our floor and we didn't see them before. Well, now guess what? We know they're there. Oh, we could leave them. We could also work on and cleaning them up. And so, yeah, change is not usually comfortable. But the suffering comes from when we really put a lot of tension like it's a problem. A question about feeling like I'm supposed to make everyone happy or at least responsible for it in some regard. Meaning that's how you feel, Steve? Like there's a feeling inside of you that you're supposed to make everyone happy and it's kind of your responsibility?
Yeah, so that being in spaces that are kind of more confined now, or just talking to friends, loved ones, people, and it's almost like sometimes being in the space of a blame game where I know that I'm responsible for myself, but then also feeling like when someone's like, you make me feel this way, and me having a hard time being like, not let that get to me,
Mm.
because at the end of the day, I do want people to be happy.
Mm-hmm.
And if someone's saying that I'm the reason they're not being happy, it's a challenge for me to not feel like that's my responsibility,
Mm-hmm.
especially the more I care about the person,
For
like
sure.
with within the complexities of work, friend relationships, loved ones, and feeling like a moral obligation, um, that it's my job to create a space of where happiness is easier for them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I love that. Thank you. And I think that's probably very common, especially with a lot of people that I know that are on the call right now. And again, survival, right? Like I grew up in a very, very emotionally volatile environment. So I kept the peace and I made sure everybody was happy. Well, and I just took that pattern with me for the rest of my life. And there's a few things that have supported me in having a greater understanding. And I may have mentioned this, but repetition is the mother of all skill, right? So one is that emotions are simply energy in motion. And energy doesn't disappear, it only changes form. And so if the person in front of me is experiencing highly intense catabolic emotion, even if it's directed at me attempting to shift, change, do something about it, fix it, make it better, it's ultimately stopping their own processing of what they need to experience. So I know for me, if I'm trying to manage someone's emotions and that I'm responsible for that, that means that I'm basically, I'm interrupting the flow, if you will. The other opportunity that I see there is that this is another one I picked up, and again, I'm telling story to take it out of your own self, maybe, but it's to relatability as well. But oh shit, I took everything personal as a kid. My parents got divorced because of me. My sister did, because of me. My mom started to drink because of me. It's all me. Well, then I took that pattern the rest of my life. It's all my fault. Everything's my fault. So in those moments when somebody says, you make me feel, which is they're basically ultimately they're triggered, right? Because of something we said or did that actually has nothing to do with us. It just opened up, right? Time, space, continuum, all times happening at the same time. So if we have a deeply ensconced wound in ourselves that is from a certain time in our childhood and it's been hit and it's really deep in us, and somebody does that, and whatever they do in front of us, they could give us a look, they could say something, they could not call us, and we have certain rules and ideas in us about what that is, and then all of a sudden, blah, you make me feel, right? Okay, so it's in that moment to recognize we don't have to catch that. We don't have to catch it in the way that we take it, we put it in us and we go, oh my God, that's me, that's my fault. Instead, the invitation, maybe, I don't know, but what comes to mind for me in this moment is to start getting really curious. Start getting curious, like, wow, okay, I want to understand what makes you feel that. I want to have greater understanding, instead of automatically going to the default is, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean that. I'm so sorry, I didn't. I'm so sorry, because ultimately that's just a ping pong game that keeps going back and forth. You just keep serving at each other. So instead, it's that invitation of going, wow, I can see you're really upset. I'd love to dive deeper into this. Instead of being like, not catching the ball, putting it down and saying, let's examine the ball. Let's examine what's really happening right now. So really looking at, again, the ego tendency potentially of resistance of that, if I take everything on, then I'll be okay. And really, ultimately, it's my fault. It's my fault. It's because of me, da 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 da. And we just keep opening up that same wound of I'm not good enough. Right? Or I'm only lovable if certain conditions are in a certain way. People around me love me. One of the greatest freedoms I gave myself, and I practiced this one for a long time, and I'm telling you, it doesn't always stick, is not everybody's gonna like me, and I'm gonna fuck up, and I'm gonna do some stupid shit, but like I it's like do my work, clean up my side of the street as much as I can, and also practice again and again, not taking things personally is a huge one. I know it's in Don Miguel Ruiz's 4 Agreements. And that in that instance, Steve, I would say, you know, maybe start to look at, you know, how that might be a certain repetitive pattern, a deep pattern in you is taking it personally, making it about you. And we all make it about us. It's always about us, isn't it? Was that helpful, useful, maybe?
Yes. I usually, so my intention is always asking questions and just trying to understand, because if I don't understand something, I want to. And most times I think people want to be understood. And then so like oftentimes I can get down to like a thing that, so when I'm sharing something and I'm oblivious to it, sometimes when I'm sharing, everyone else that is listening can be like, this guy's an idiot. He can't tell what his problem is. It's very clear. In a similar way, sometimes when someone's sharing, it's like I can, to me, it's clear what the thing is. And so like I want to help them with saying the thing. And overall, I think I've been ineffective at, I'm still trying to make them happy, just a creative way. But the thought that's fighting inside me right now in lifetime is, am I responsible for helping them see this? Am I completely not responsible at all? I'll figure it out. No, I'm supposed to be, if I'm not helping this person, then what am I doing? Do I really care about them? I'm putting too much pressure on myself. Like that's not, you know, no, that's their stuff to work on. So I'm just like in a war inside my own mind on like the concept there. And that's just kind of like where, yeah. And then that creates like stress in me. And like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Well, there's a few things that come up when I'm listening. One is, all I know for me is that when I'm thinking about how I can almost fix something for someone in that moment, I'm not present with them. I'm more in my head, because I've gone to a place of figuring and trying to, you know, do the right thing or say the right answer or, you know, whatever. And I'm not present with them. I feel like, you know, the determination or the discernment of whether or not to offer something in that moment, I feel like that's just moment to moment and very personal. What supports me is just the more I offer my presence, then I can gauge and I can really sense if there's an invitation at all energetically. For me, a great way that I am practicing, and I forget, especially being a coach, but when I'm not in the coaching seat, I will ask the person that I'm with, hey, do you want me to just listen right now, or do you want me to give you some insight of what I'm experiencing? Are you open to maybe hearing something? Are you open to a suggestion right now? And feeling out where they are is really useful, because in that moment, somebody might not want to hear that, and they might be extremely closed off. So that sometimes is also really useful. And also being able to sit with the discomfort, like also, you know, like I spoke with my mom earlier, and, you know, so much of me, every time I talk to my mom, wants to just help her see something different, shift the perspective, you know, help her out of the victim, you know, and it's usually just me spinning my wheels. And so first of all, it's discernment of when I should talk to my mom, what makes the most sense, because talking to her in catabolic state isn't usually very wise, but also really zipping it, like really practicing, like zip it and stay in a place of love. Stay in a place of love, Valerie. Stay in a place of love again and again and again and again. There's nothing to fix. Everything is perfect order. right? Everything's in, I just, you know, because who am I? And my mom isn't open. She doesn't want to. She doesn't want to hear that. You know, it's a very different mentality as opposed to, it's like, know your audience. Like you might be talking to somebody that's like with me, if you and I were chatting and you were like, hey, you know, and I'd be like, yeah, tell me, what do you see? What do you see? You know? So it just, you know, depends a lot on that as well. Again, looking at
Thank you.
yeah, of course, you're welcome. Our discomfort of being around that person that we love that feels uncomfortable or looks stuck or anything else. But I love even what Steve reiterated is the importance of asking questions, getting really curious. So I want to just share one more thing really quickly. You guys, I know we started a little late and we're probably going to go, usually I think these calls are ultimately going to be 70 minutes. But I do want to just tell you a quick story, and this isn't to, I want to just really preface it with, this is not to instill fear, yet what you receive from this is going to be your own experience and potentially the opportunity to work with the pattern in you. So if something comes up in you, just start to become aware, start to witness. So I'm in Mexico, and it's getting quieter and quieter here. And people are, there's less Americans and expats, and there's more Mexicans on the street. Additionally, more of the Mexicans on the street are oftentimes the ones that maybe don't have jobs and maybe don't have a lot of money, right? And I've noticed moments of feeling unsafe. And I've really navigated, and I'm really wise about when I go out and everything. And I have a bicycle. And I went to Walmart at 9 a.m. yesterday, and I got a bunch of stuff, and I walk out and my bike's gone. And at first I was like, oh shit, you know, like, damn it, you know, and I noticed that, like, and I instantly called my friend because I didn't want to be alone, and I wanted to, you know, be with someone. Again, it's not here. I'm not worried about getting the coronavirus. I'm not worried about it. It's my life, my safety. Okay. And mind you, I believe Mexico is a very safe space. I think that where you are, if you're in a larger city, this is, you know, anywhere we all could be, and it's my survival stuff. So anyway, I just noticed this, you know, and I was feeling like sad and bummed and pissed, but also really like like I felt violated. I felt scared. I felt, you know, all of those different, I'm just going to answer this really quickly. It's going to be 3 to 4 at Mountain Time next week. So anyway, I'm feeling this, this overwhelming feeling of like, oh my God, like I have to walk home now. I don't want to walk through the streets with all this shit. I'm this white girl that they think is like probably wealthy and all this stuff. So, and my friend's like, go to the busy streets, walk on the busy streets. And I just stayed with him as I walked home, and I'm just talking to him, and I'm breathing, and I'm just resourcing myself. And resourcing myself in that moment meant this: feeling my feelings, letting them go through my body, processing it. And what I and this was happening very quickly. What I kept coming to is a few things. First of all, the energy with which I exude is something that people will experience in that moment. So I realized if I'm walking with the energy of anger and frustration and pissed off, well, that's not going to serve me in that moment. So I just started to think, I pray that that person really needed that money, and they're going to use it. They're going to use it for themselves, and they're going to use it, or they need it, whatever. I'm just going to, and then my feelings about being sad about the bike just went to more to the periphery. Then with my, you know, my own, you know, safety and security, I'm walking down the street, I'm breathing deeply, I'm in my body. I'm just like, you know, really practicing that presence of bringing my vibration up. And I go upstairs, and anyway, the point was that I started to just really just start to increase my own vibration. And here's what I did. I let myself feel my feelings. I felt scared. I felt sad. But here's what the shift was for me that I had insight with yesterday, that I've been sitting with for quite a while. I feel there is this beautiful thing that over the years, you know, for a very, very, very long time, we didn't do emotion as humans. We pushed emotions to the side, we made them wrong, and so on and so forth. And then we've opened up over the years to more of, feel your feelings, feel them, like, yes, and acknowledge and validate and feel your feelings. And it's so beautiful to recognize we are energy beings. I feel as if sometimes, this is not, again, just watch your own stuff if it's coming up right now, that we can get excessive in that. Well, this is how I'm feeling, and this is how I'm feeling, and we almost have to prove it, or we feel like we have to stay in it, and we have to process it, and we have to be with it, and we have to, and I just felt like, okay, I felt that. I was in my body, I felt it, I experienced it, and I let it move through me. And I felt like if I put more attention, meaning kept thinking about it, kept going, fuck, what, and I'm not safe, and I would keep charging myself in that catabolic direction. And it wouldn't serve me. And again, my vibration, my frequency would be dimmer. And so I started to and I watched myself go through this relatively quickly. Remember, everything's happening pretty quickly right now. And I felt free, and I felt better in my body, and I felt safer. And as I moved through the day, I noticed myself going in and out of this. And you guys, remember, time's happening fast. Things are happening fast. You may notice 1 minute you feel high as a kite, and the next minute you are low. But what I was doing was I was being present with myself with all of this. And that presence gave me the opportunity to notice when my thoughts want to catch hold and do a lot with it. Or get on the phone and start going, can you believe, but I knew if I just started talking about it, like maybe I was going to call a friend and they'd be like, holy shit, I can't believe that happened. And then it would charge me again. So I was just taking good maintenance, like really checking in and just really looking at, where do I want to put my attention? Where do I want to put my focus? What do I need right now? What do I need right now? Oh, I need to breathe deeply. Oh, I'm noticing it. And all of my tendencies were all coming up. My wanting to blame, my wanting to judge, my wanting to dissociate, my wanting to run away, all of it. It was like, and I just chose in the space to practice just being with it, and what it was like to just kind of ride the wave with greater acceptance, if you will. And what's really beautiful is that where I landed today, okay, and I just want to finish this story because in case any of you guys are wondering, I really in the morning, I was like, I think I should go. I think it's time to leave. If there are flights, I think it's time to leave. And I was really like vacillating, like, do I? And I didn't want to come to this answer out of a place of fear. So how do we make that determination? Again, it's a very personal thing. So for me, as I was kind of like vacillating, like, okay, I listed out, what are my options? I stay and I move to this area where I feel so much more safe and so much more comfortable, and I can live in a separate apartment that's attached to my landlord's house, or I leave. And as I let myself sit in the not knowing, in the discomfort, in the back and forth, gathering and collecting data along the way, watching basically managing my own emotions, if you will, meaning watching when I got hooked or when I got, in that place, I came to this stillness inside of me. And I'm still going to give myself the night to sleep on it. This is all different patterns, you guys, all different. I would have been like, I have to know now, and I have to make a decision. I have to, and I have to, and it was just this time and space to go through the discomfort and go through the process in a more aware. Does it take away the discomfort and feeling safe, like not feeling safe? No. Yet it's not as charged. And it landed me to a place of that at this moment, I'm moving to a different area for 1 more month. That's it. So, and I feel really solid in it. I'm still going to give myself the night to sleep on it. But I just want to bring that up, just understanding we're moving through things fast and letting ourselves ride the wave and being in the moment and really giving ourselves permission to wait, to just wait to see what else might be revealed and to really stay with ourselves and presence ourselves, whatever that means for you in those moments and what else might be revealed. Questions, insights, concerns, comments?
I like the almost like an imagination game of like open possibilities. Wonder what that could be like. Just like that decision making process that you kind of set up.
Thank you. And it's new for me. It's new for me. And I think because I've given myself permission to be in the space, like really in the space, and not always, I'm not saying, you know, I still have a tendency to fail, you know, but I think that's why I had this new insight of attempting something different. So really, I invite you this week to practice giving yourself an opportunity to practice something new. To give yourself an opportunity to show up anew, to recognize you are changing, to give yourself permission that as you change, it's like growing pains as a kid, right? It's like, you know, it will feel uncomfortable. And maybe this is the opportunity to try something new, especially if, you know, there's an invitation or a calling or a desire in you to upgrade your life in some way, shape, or form. Remember, sometimes a lot of old patterns or old things need to be moved in order to create space for the new. Well, that means there's a grieving, a dismantling that's necessary in order to implement or cultivate the new. So can we, along that journey in practicing anew and giving ourselves that permission, can we find compassion and love for ourselves in that time? Can we lean into resources that support the new who we're becoming, instead of the old way of being and the expectation of, well, this is who you said you were and this is what you should be. And maybe if you are living with people, is maybe opening up the dialogue of, hey, can we give ourselves the opportunity to show up anew and then practice new ways of being right now, and just be really open and honest and authentic about what's working, what's not. Maybe it's a new level of intimacy that's being invited right now for those of you that are living with people. And I'm not talking about intimate relationship either, by the way. I did send a great resource a while ago. I think it was on week 1. Lee Harris is a fantastic resource. He's a channeler, but he does monthly updates, and he's doing them actually 2 a month. So first part of the month, second part of the month. His April update and his mid-March update is so profoundly useful for me to keep revisiting. So if that's something that you guys want, or I highly recommend to just check that out. Definitely make sure you stay in touch via Facebook, or send me any questions that you guys have or any things that you want me to cover. I really hope this was useful. And if anybody has anything, I'm going to unmute you all. If anybody has anything they want to share. Bye, Bets.
Bye, guys. See you next time.
Bye. Yeah. Thanks so much, you guys, for your time and your energy. And you're all unmuted if you want to say. I think you're unmuted. You're not. You're all unmuted.
Great.
Thanks, Val.
Great. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. So much love out there, you guys. Keep shining your light.
Thank you, Val.
Yeah. Talk to you.
Oh, Valerie, could you just
go
over that energy thing really quick? Like, I'm sorry, because I'm really new. Because Zach talked to me about that too. Like, will you just go over that really quick, the 2 types?
2 types of, energy? Yeah.
Yeah, so, like the anabolic and the.
Yeah, for sure. And I can send that to you, Trina, too. And I'm so glad you're on the call. But
thank you so much for the reminder.
Yeah. Catabolic energy is heavy energy. It's dense energy. It actually moves more slowly and it breaks things down. So it's more, it's feelings like fear, judgment, worry, anxiety. And it's thinking like I have to, I need to, I should. It's actions like blaming and judging and things like that. And then anabolic is more uplifting. It moves quickly. It's a lighter energy, so it feels better in our bodies. And it's feelings like joy, ease, peace. It's actions like taking responsibility and looking for the win-win and curiosity. And it's statements like I will, I want to, I choose to. So they're both very different, and one's not right or wrong or good or bad. They're just different energies. And the more anabolic we experience and we shift to, which we can, it just heightens our own personal frequency, which we can talk more about. But it's just a useful tool because it stops labeling things right or wrong, good or bad. But when we acknowledge where we are, we recognize that it's not a problem. Yet if we then in that moment, even just a simple acceptance or compassion can start to help us create an internal shift.
Cool.
Did you
Thanks.
share that somewhere, Val? I remember hearing you talk about it before, or maybe almost a year ago in another coaching thing you did.
Yeah, it's a base tone note of how I coach and how I live. Everything's energy, and it's how I live. So for me, when I first was introduced to it, I think was in 2012 through the coaching industry I went through, IPAC. His name is Bruce, and he was the founder of it. But he was the one that introduced me to that languaging. But it just, what it helped me to do was stop labeling it, and start to have a greater understanding about when certain choices that I was making in my life, and so much more than that. Yeah. Great questions, you guys. Thank you.
Have you shared it again then as part of this?
Yeah, I think it was in the first call.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I can send that to you, Nicole, too. So yeah. It's
Thank
Nicole,
you, Val.
right?
This
Is
is
talking?
always great.
Okay, I couldn't tell. All right. Yeah. Of
Yeah,
course.
I came in differently because I couldn't unmute like I have been able to other times when I called in. So I came in through the Zoom and just